A massive Kona low has been pummeling the Hawaiian Islands all week, and it's heavy, especially in Maui. Throughout the past 2 days in particular, I kept seeing footage of the storm on different people's Instagram stories, and it just kept getting worse. The storm is still raging and lots of damage has already been done. Governor Josh Green has declared a statewide state of emergency as emergency crews race to pull people from rising floodwaters across multiple islands. It was already a very wet winter for Hawaii, and this latest storm isn't just typical rainy season showers. What's happening is actually quite rare. A deep subtropical cyclone stalled northwest of the archipelago and essentially parked an atmospheric river of tropical moisture directly over the islands, dumping 1 to 3 inches of rain per hour in the hardest hit zones, with some areas receiving several feet of rain in just 48 hours. Waterfalls have sprung everywhere, and flooding is rampant, and the typically deep blue ocean has turned a stark shade of brown. Evacuation orders were in place for multiple flood zones, and it was all hands on deck in danger zones. Honolulu firefighters pulled off a dramatic rescue near Kaimuk High School, plucking 4 people and a dog off bridge pillars as floodwaters quickly rose. In Waialua, residents of Otaki Camp were ordered to evacuate as Kaukanahua streams surged and swallowed homes and vehicles whole. Maui got it even worse, and locals describe that hole the island feels like it is underwater. The steep slopes around Haleakala turned into walls of mud, rock, and debris, moving at terrifying speed. Some are calling it the worst rainstorm in the island's modern history. The legendary Hana Highway, all the hundreds of curves and dozens of bridges on it, suffered multiple structural failures. Landslides at Twin Falls and Kianai have completely cut off the remote community of Hana from the rest of the island. The last update from the County of Maui government was, a powerful Kona storm continues to hit Maui County, forcing widespread road closures and property damage from flooding, landslides, sinkholes, downed power lines, and other impacts. National Weather Service, NWS, anticipates severe weather will continue through Sunday for Maui County. Maui Fire Department conducted floodwater rescues overnight in South Maui. Also last night, dozens of people, who are now at a shelter, were cut off in Hana due to road washout. Over the last 14 hours, some areas received more than 20 inches of rain, kula, and wind gusts more than 70 miles per hour, kaunakakai, according to NWS. The National Weather Service in Honolulu warned that severe weather conditions are expected to continue through Sunday. Maui Fire Department crews conducted floodwater rescues overnight in South Maui, and dozens of people in Hana were cut off by a road washout and later taken to a shelter, according to the county. Some areas have received more than 20 inches of rain over the past 14 hours, including Kula, while wind gusts reached more than 70 miles per hour in Kaunakakai on Molokai. More than 100 people were staying in emergency shelters across Maui County as of midday Saturday. Shelters have been opened at Lanai High and Elementary School Gym in Lanai City, Hana High School Cafeteria, Maui High School Gym in Kahului, Kaunakakai Gym on Molokai, Lahaina Civic Center, and the South Maui Community Park Gym in Kihei. The shelters provide cots, food, and water. People can bring bedding, along with essential supplies and medications. Pets are permitted if they are in crates. The duration of the shelters will depend on the severity of the weather. Additional sites will open if further needs arise, according to MEMA. Officials warned that roads remain hazardous because of flooding, debris, and limited turnaround areas. The public is strongly advised against driving through pooling or moving water. Residents and visitors are being urged to stay off roadways unless travel is essential. Travel into East Maui along Hana Highway is inaccessible because of multiple blockages, and South Kihei Road and North Kihei Road remain closed in areas due to flooding. Haleakala National Park Summit and Kapahulu districts are closed, according to the National Park Service. The public should treat any traffic light that is out or malfunctioning as a four-way stop. All county offices, parks, and facilities were closed Saturday because of the severe weather, with only essential workers reporting to duty. Mayor Richard Bisson signed an emergency proclamation earlier this week, allowing the county to access state and federal assistance and deploy resources more quickly. MEMA is working with local and state partners to continue assessing damage from the storm. Residents and businesses may submit damage reports to MEMA. Damage reports after a severe weather event help assess impacts, prioritize response efforts, and access recovery resources. Powerful storm Kona has caused power outages for approximately 100,000 people, down from the 132,000 reported yesterday by poweroutage.us. It was expected some would remain without power overnight due to the storm, and that was the reality for many. A strong Kona storm is brewing in Hawaii with heavy rain, strong winds, and even blizzard conditions on the volcanic peaks, all expected through the weekend. East Honolulu gets its power from windward Oahu through transmission lines that run along the Ko'olau Mountains near Waimanalo, then cross over the ridgeline. 2 of those lines already went down earlier from the storm. That left 1 line holding up the whole area. Then, around 5:50 p.m., the weather took out that last line. Thankfully, crews figured out the issue and restored power to over 29,000 customers in parts of East Honolulu and Waikiki by late in the evening. Hawaii Governor Josh Green issued an emergency proclamation ahead of the storm on Monday, and flash flood warnings remain in effect. Our priority is keeping the people of Hawaii safe, Green said in a news release. By issuing this emergency proclamation now, we are ensuring that state and county agencies have the resources and flexibility needed to respond quickly to flooding, severe weather, and any impacts this storm may bring. Around 30 inches of rain has fallen around the highest summits of Maui. Heavy rainfall continues to cause flooding and road closures across multiple islands. Even as rainfall has eased on some islands, residents are still urged to be cautious due to flooding and road closures. Fortunately, we have good news out of Waialua and Halewa. The city lifted its evacuation notice for residents near Wahiawa Dam early Saturday morning, around 4:40 a.m., after water levels had stabilized and the threat had passed. Friday evening, around 6 p.m., the dam was approaching 83 feet, dangerously close to the 90-foot failure point. Emergency Management Director Randall Collins issued the evacuation out of precaution. In the wee hours of the morning, around 4:40 a.m., Saturday morning, the city sent out an HNL alert post that said, water levels remain consistent at the Wahiawa Dam, and the evacuation notice has been lifted. The water levels held steady, so the need to evacuate is no longer. But still stay alert, this storm's not over yet. A powerful and slow-moving Kona storm has unleashed a historic deluge across the island of Maui, plunging the community into a state of emergency. As of Sunday night, March 15th, 2026, Maui remains at the epicenter of a weather system that has turned peaceful neighborhoods into rushing rivers, destroyed homes, and forced thousands of residents to flee for higher ground. The crisis began late last week when a deep area of low pressure, characteristic of a Kona storm, stalled over the Hawaiian Islands. Unlike typical trade wind rains, this system drew a plume of deep tropical moisture from the south, concentrating its fury on the central and eastern slopes of Maui. By Sunday afternoon, rainfall totals in Kula and the Haleakala slopes exceeded a staggering 20 inches in less than 48 hours. The National Weather Service, NWS, has maintained a flash flood warning for the entire island, describing the situation as extremely dangerous and life-threatening. At the summit of Haleakala, wind gusts were recorded at a terrifying 133 miles per hour, equivalent to Category 4 hurricane force winds. The most critical situation unfolded in West Maui, particularly within the Lahaina region, a community still sensitive to environmental threats following past tragedies. On Sunday, the Maui Emergency Management Agency, MEMA, issued an urgent evacuation advisory for residents in the Wahikuli and Leali subdivisions. The catalyst for the evacuation was a detention pond nearing its maximum capacity. Authorities feared a catastrophic breach that would send a wall of water into residential streets. "We are asking residents to move now, not later," said Maui County Mayor Richard Bisson during a televised emergency briefing. "The integrity of our drainage infrastructure is being tested beyond its design limits. The storm's impact on Maui's infrastructure has been paralyzing." Hawaiian Electric reported that over 20,000 customers lost power as falling trees and high winds snapped utility poles like matchsticks. In many areas, the darkness has hampered rescue efforts and limited communication. The devastation is most visible in the Iao Valley and Wailuku areas. In a heartbreaking scene caught on social media, a residential home in the Iao Valley was seen collapsing into the swollen Iao stream after the foundation was eroded by the raging current. Fortunately, the occupants had evacuated hours earlier. In Kahului, the commercial heart of the island, major retailers like Target reported significant interior flooding, forcing shoppers to evacuate as water poured through the entrances. Meanwhile, in upcountry Maui, farmers are reporting total crop losses as torrential rains washed away topsoil and flooded greenhouses. Beyond the physical damage, a secondary crisis is brewing regarding the island's water supply. The Department of Water Supply has issued a water conservation notice for the Upper Kula and Makawao areas. Storm-related damage to intake pipes and high turbidity, muddiness, in the reservoirs have made it difficult for treatment plants to keep up with demand. Furthermore, a brown water advisory is in effect for all coastal waters. Runoff from the storm, carrying pesticides, animal feces, and debris, has contaminated the ocean, posing significant health risks to anyone entering the water. Mayor Richard Bisson's emergency proclamation, signed on Sunday, paves the way for state and federal assistance. The scale of this flooding is something we haven't seen in decades, the mayor stated. Our focus right now is life safety. Once the waters recede, we will begin the long and difficult task of assessing the damage and rebuilding. The National Weather Service predicts that while the heaviest rain may begin to taper off by late Sunday night, the risk of landslides remains high as the soil is completely saturated. Meanwhile, Governor Josh Green has extended the state of emergency to include the city and county of Honolulu, as emergency responders work around the clock to rescue residents trapped by rising waters. The disaster is fueled by a slow-moving Kona low, a seasonal cyclone that pulls massive amounts of tropical moisture from the equator and dumps it directly onto the Hawaiian chain. While Maui has been hit hard, the focus has shifted intensely toward Oahu, as the storm's heavy rain bands stalled over the island's mountainous interior. Meteorologists from the National Weather Service, NWS, in Honolulu, reported that rainfall totals in Nuuanu and Manoa have eclipsed 18 inches within a 24-hour window. The sheer volume of water cascading from the Ko'olau Range has caused every major stream on the island to reach or exceed flood stage, leading to flash flooding of historic proportions. In the heart of Honolulu, the urban infrastructure has been overwhelmed. The H1 freeway, the island's primary artery, saw multiple sections shut down on Sunday afternoon after drainage systems failed, leaving dozens of vehicles submerged up to their windows near the University of Hawaii at Manoa exit. The Waikiki tourist district was not spared. Significant ponding on Kalakaua Avenue forced luxury retailers to sandbag their entrances as water began to seep into ground floor lobbies. "It was like the ocean just moved inland," said one resident. The storm drains were actually bubbling up, pushing water back onto the streets because there was nowhere else for it to go. The situation turned critical in Windward Oahu and North Shore communities. Significant mudslides have cut off sections of Kamehameha Highway, isolating entire neighborhoods. Emergency crews used jet skis and heavy machinery to reach families whose homes were surrounded by fast-moving water. This industrial and commercial hub suffered its worst flooding in years, with water levels reaching several feet deep, damaging warehouses and small businesses. Residents reported the Manoa Stream jumping its banks, sending debris and mud into backyards and flooding lower levels of homes. The Honolulu Board of Water Supply, BWS, has issued an urgent plea for all Oahu residents to reduce water consumption. The extreme rainfall has caused high turbidity in several wells and damaged pumping equipment in the Halawa area. "We need everyone to conserve water for essential use only, cooking and sanitation, until we can stabilize the system," said a BWS spokesperson. The Daniel K. Inouye International Airport, HNL, remains operational, but is experiencing massive delays and cancellations. Travelers are being told not to head to the airport if their flights are grounded, as the surrounding access roads are frequently impassable. All state and city parks remain closed. The bus and the handy van services have been severely curtailed, operating only on limited routes where road conditions are deemed safe. The Honolulu Police Department, HPD, has issued a stern warning. Stay home. Every car that gets stuck in floodwaters takes a rescue team away from a life-threatening emergency in a residential area. The emotional weight of the storm is heavy. In Oahu, a local church became an impromptu shelter for elderly residents whose care home was flooded. The emotional weight of the storm is heavy. In Oahu, a local church became an impromptu shelter for elderly residents whose care home was flooded. Meanwhile, a long-standing family home, a sanctuary for generations, was systematically dismantled and swept away by the roaring currents of the Oahu stream. The incident, captured in a viral and heartbreaking video by neighbors, has become the defining image of the 2026 Hawaii floods. It serves as a stark reminder of the vulnerability of even the most established structures when faced with the unprecedented hydraulic force of a flash flood. The catastrophe unfolded shortly after 2 p.m. The Oahu stream, normally a picturesque waterway known for its tranquil pools, had transformed into a chocolate-brown torrent of mud, boulders, and uprooted trees. Witnesses described the sound as a constant, low-frequency roar that shook the very ground. For the residents of the property located near the valley's entrance, the danger became imminent when the stream began to undercut the steep embankment upon which their home sat. Within minutes, the soil, saturated by over 15 inches of rain, gave way. It didn't happen all at once, said Kalani Akana, a neighbor who watched from a safe distance. First, the lanai, porch, started to tilt. Then, you could hear the wood screaming, the sound of the frame snapping. A few seconds later, the entire back half of the house just slid into the water. It was gone in a blink. By the time the main structure collapsed into the river, the house was quickly reduced to a mass of shattered timber and roofing materials, carried downstream toward the ocean. Miraculously, no lives were lost in the destruction. The family, alerted by the Maui Emergency Management Agency's MEMA, wireless emergency alerts, and the visible rising water, had evacuated just 2 hours before the foundation failed.
Backed up. So this is North Kihei Road, yeah?